So welcome to this COVID-19 and school disaster management webinar, which is the second in a series of 3 GADRRRES webinars dedicated to school safety and COVID-19. So please note that this is a recording made on 25th June 2020, so one day after the official webinar due to some connection issues, but please note that all the questions that we received during the webinar will have been saved and will be addressed in a follow-up email. So my name is Lucie Langlès and I'm the coordinator for GADRRRES, and I just left my camera a few seconds to say hi, but I will just now turn it off just to be sure that we have the right bandwidth. Just a second. Right, so just regarding our agenda today, so I will start with a quick webinar presentation before handing over to a panel of speakers who will talk about school disaster management and COVID-19. So today we are very fortunate to be joined by representatives from different GADRRRES members. We have Mr. Harry Dongol, who is currently working at Save the Children in Nepal for the Nepal School Project as the Output 2 lead, which is focusing on software component of Safe Schools. We are also pleased to be joined by Mrs. Sarah Morgan, who is a child protection advisor focused on violence against children with Save the Children, where she also co-chairs the Protecting Children in and Around Schools Technical Working Group. And last but not least, we are joined by Mrs. Badrun Nahar, who is a disaster risk management specialist at Plan International Bangladesh. So Badrun Nahar is managing the Safe School projects for Plan International, and she is also working as an emergency response specialist as part of an additional assignment in the COVID-19 situation. So I'd like to warmly welcome all our presenters, and before I hand over to Harry, I will just give you a brief overview of GADRRRES. So GADRRRES, or the Global Alliance for Disaster Risk Reduction and Resilience in the Education Sector, is a multi-stakeholder mechanism composed of UN agencies, NGOs, and also international and regional networks. So today, the Global Alliance includes 14 members, as well as 2 regional and country-level organizations. So you can see all the members' logos on the screen. And the main mission of GADRRRES is to ensure that all schools are safe from disaster risk and that all learners live in a culture of safety. And actually, the approach that GADRRRES takes is based on the Comprehensive School Safety Framework and its 3 pillars. And the 4 main goals of the CSSF are the one written on the screen. So to protect learners and education workers from death, injury, and harm in schools. The second one is to plan for educational continuity in the face of all expected hazards and threats. The third one, to safeguard education sector investments. And the last one, to strengthen risk reduction and resilience through education. So as I mentioned before, this is the second of 3 webinars that GADRRRES is offering, which look at COVID-19 and school safety. So on the screen, you have the Comprehensive School Safety Framework image, including 3 circles, each one representing a pillar of the Comprehensive School Safety Framework. So on Thursday, 11th June, we had a session on Pillar 1, Safe Learning Facilities, and COVID-19. Today, this session will focus on Pillar 2, School Disaster Management and COVID-19. And next week, on Thursday, 2nd July, we will have our third and last session focusing on Pillar 3, Risk Reduction and Resilience Education and COVID-19. So the objectives of this webinar is to explore how planning for risk reduction, response preparedness, and educational continuity are key to address COVID-19. This webinar will introduce Pillar 2 of the Comprehensive School Safety Framework, School Disaster Management, and share also some case studies on how school disaster management is used and adapted in a COVID-19 response. So at this point, I think we will hear from our first presenter. So I will hand over to Harry Dongol. So please, Harry, the floor is yours.
Hello, Hari Dongol from Nepal. Thank you, Lucy. I'm going to talk about our school disaster management briefly under Pillar 2. I'll just keep this video off so that the bandwidth gets quite good. Yes, when we talk about school disaster management, we consider the school disaster management from all hazard approach. So all hazard means uh, we do work with violence, which does include physical and human punishment, abuse, all sort of uh, violences inside schools, bullying, cyberbullying, including and also includes sexual and gender-based violence as well in the school. Another one, natural hazards, which does include different hazards like flood, tropical cyclone, um, landslide, and the extreme cold, tsunami, all sort of natural hazards that includes in this one as well. And also the conflict is also reflected in this school disaster management. Basically, mostly we hear about schools being used by armed forces or security forces for either shelter, or even we do hear about conflicts. I mean, the crossfires going in the schools as well in different parts of the world. So we do have to include this conflict in the school disaster management as well. And besides that, it does include everyday hazards, which means everything which are left over from all three above. That includes this epidemic and pandemic as well. Um, Yes, when we talk about school disaster management, we do go with five steps. So these steps are like know your danger, reduce our danger, and prepare to respond, plan for education and protection continuity, and then monitor, share, and reach out. Uh, when we talk about this know our danger and reduce our danger, I would like to start up with this picture on the right, which does have the benches kept under the roof. So it is actually hanged over the roof with small sticks. So what I wanted to get you from this one is like, until and unless when you look from the danger point of view, people hardly notice the danger that it can cause the people. So the reality is, under this roof, the class is going on, but people hardly notice that this is a risk for the students as well. But when we look from the danger point of view, then people saw this and then they immediately removed the next day. So what I mean to say is, from when you realize that this is danger, and from realization to action, it occurs. It doesn't need that much of the effort. So in this one, it was really easy, but there must be some maybe some other risk which uh, needs more detailed planning and all. So regarding this, know our danger, we do have to work with participatory assessment of schools and surrounding, and this does include the physical visible risks and capacities in the schools, and then we do map the schools from risk and capacity point of views. And also when we talk about risk and dangers, some risk and dangers are not visible. So I mean, this school disaster management toolkit does give space to different kind of tools, which could be used for assessment of different hazards. So it does include one of body mapping, which normally is used inside. We do use inside classroom. So which help within different groups and different age groups and different focus group of girls and boys, which helps them to express their feelings in their small groups when the teachers are not present, because some of the dangers they want to express may not be expressed with all the people present. So this is participatory risk assessment inside the school, and then when you know the risk and danger, you plan for reducing the danger. And also from the assessment, you would get non-structural and some of maybe structural and some of the child protection issues as well, which we normally address from planning and implementation of the plans. And normally we do work with the participatory planning and implementation of the dangers. Um, then when we go to third step, it does have different, it is preparing to response, which does include different kind of approaches, including SOPs, standard operating procedure for different kind of hazards, and also the incident command system where people would be informed beforehand, to prepare beforehand, whom to address, and who are responsible for it, doers, makers, and supporters, and also the decision makers are clear on this incident command system. Also, not to forget the contacts of in the during the emergencies needs to be clear and then known by all the address. In case of this COVID, we were talking about this hand washing, social distancing, that is prepared to response as well. Um, Step 4, we talk about plan for education and protection continuity, and the this step is the one which is really crucial during this COVID-19 as well. So we used to plan for education and protection continuity when the schools or when the education is disturbed by some hazards and any other events. So this one is especially we have designed this for COVID-19 as well. So this one does talk about makeup of lost days and hours. If the school is disrupted for a number of days, then the school management need to plan beforehand for how to make up these hours and days. And then second one is alternative school locations and temporary learning facilities. So in case of COVID, when we talk about the social distancing and pupils are also needed to be far apart from each other, we might need more school facilities than we do have in currently. So for this, we also might need to increase the facilities of school as well. And then next one is alternative modes of instructions, and also the calendar. So in this COVID-19, we are most of the countries are now talking about distant learning as well. And then using different kinds of medium, the radios, television, online classes, and also sometimes it is different approaches like in communities. Teaching from from megaphones, different approaches that we could think about this. We could plan on this one as well, and extra capacity, which is crucial also because at this point of time, when we talk about increasing facilities, and then the increased facilities does need increased human resources as well. I mean, the number of teachers who are available may not be enough for the increased facilities. When we do talk about different shift of classes, shift of schoolings, then the existing human resource might not be enough. So this talks about pre capacity building of probably more human resources that does include youth from the communities, or extra teachers which could be available easily in and around the community or around the school. And plan for school cleanup, which is also a very crucial one in case of COVID. We talk about disinfection of schools after it's been used as quarantine or isolation centers, which is very abundant in case of Nepal as well, because we do have data that many of the schools have been used as quarantine centers and also as isolation centers, plus health checkup and testing centers as well. And talking about this use of schools as quarantine centers or shelters, we do talk about reducing the use of discouraging the use of school as shelters or quarantine centers. But when we talk about current situation in Nepal, the advocacy have been done in the federal level, but the facilities are being used in the local level, and then we do have 744 local governments in the country which are independent to decide. So it looks like we need more of the advocacy on this point as well. So when we talk about plan for limited use of school as temporary shelters or quarantine centers, first thing is the advocacy, where we talk about not reduce the using of the schools besides the education. And then if and only if they do need to use the schools, then we do have guideline for using the schools as emergency centers. Um, and next one is child protection. So when we talk about any kind of disasters, child protection is the crucial one. Also in the COVID situation, we do hear about the children's psychosocial problem, and also hearing lots of violence cases during this pandemic as well. And then in this child protection also, we talk about uh, family reunification plan as well under this child protection. Another one is health and nutrition. So this is crucial, especially in case of COVID-19. We talk about immunity, and also the immunity of the vulnerable children and people. So next one is students' participation is also very crucial in case of this plan for education and protection continuity. Uh, When we talk about step 5, it is monitor, share, and reach out, which means like school is not in an island, so it does have communities which are linked to the school. So when we talk about sharing and monitoring, sharing and reaching out. We do talk about sharing through students to the parents and communities, and also the schools could be used as their educations, I mean their building up knowledge centers as well, and information centers. We also do talk about the how the family safety plans as well from the school to the communities or households. And also we need to talk about monitoring the actions, and also reflecting on the implementation from this. Um, these are some of the guidelines we do have in the toolbox, which does include, as I mentioned before, limited use of schools as temporary shelters, and collective centers in emergencies and disaster. So that is available, and also school maintenance checklist, which keeps school buildings in good shape, school management guidelines as well. So these are available in the toolbox. With this one, I would like to hand over the presentation to Sarah. Thank you. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Lucy. Up to you, Sarah.
Thank you over to me. I'm going to just turn off my camera, but just to say, my name is Sarah Morgan. I work with Save the Children as a child protection advisor. Just turn the camera off now. So I'm really delighted to be able to speak to you today and to present the Safe Back to School Practitioners Guide. Just to introduce, for those of you that don't know what the guide is all about, the guide is aimed to be a very user-friendly, practitioner-focused tool. It's been developed in response to the kind of more overarching UN framework for reopening schools. It aims to give very practical school-level guidance to support practitioners, but also to support those actually working within schools to safely reopen after confinement, after the lockdown period that we've seen across the globe. Just to also say that you can see on the screen here that this has an English cover. We also have had translations in French, Spanish, Arabic, Portuguese and Italian. Turkish is coming, and we've also been lucky to secure some Translation Without Borders support to keep translating. So I think we're hoping that we will have versions available in Russian and Ukrainian, but watch this space because the demand seems to be growing for different languages, so we may have this in many more. Just to say the guide, so although it was started by a group of us at Save the Children, sort of based on lessons and based on a really sort of urgent need to start giving advice to country offices on what to do when schools reopened. And it really was a very interagency collaboration in the end. So it was technically reviewed by all these organisations you can see on the screen. It went very quickly to the Global Education Cluster to be endorsed, which we're really proud of in this group of organisations. It was, I think, one of the fastest endorsed guides, but given the speed of COVID, it was really needed. We're also very pleased that it was endorsed by the Child Protection Area of Responsibility. For those of you that don't know what that is, that's the coordination body that sits underneath the Global Protection Cluster, which is then very focused on coordinating protection initiatives in humanitarian settings. And so very joined up, integrated approach from education and child protection, which is very much, of course, needed at this time of COVID. So really, really pleased that happened. It also is very, as you'll see through the guide, and we can put the link to where the guide is housed at the moment in the email you receive after this webinar. It's very much an integrated approach across health and nutrition, WASH, DRR. As we know, COVID has presented a kind of multitude of challenges when it comes to going back to school. And so the guide reflects a very joined up integrated approach, which focuses on the all hazards approach. And yeah, really quite pleased with it, as you can probably tell from my voice. And just sort of as guiding sort of concepts, I just mentioned the integration. It's really it's really shown how interconnected our sectors have to be in the return to school, and it really, we really wanted to have this approach to it that we need to work together more efficiently and to make have more impact for children as they return to school. In terms of the technical quality, it's not a new toolkit. It's a new practitioner's guide, but it's very much based on best practices from within across all of those sectors. It has strategies, guidance. It has links to a range of materials that have been produced by lots of different organisations already, as well as some really critical lessons from the Ebola response, which has had some similarities. And so, yeah, just to say it's not something new. It's really a collation of what's already there, but obviously adapted to sort of the new situation we find ourselves in, that we probably have never found ourselves in before with COVID. It's also, we really wanted this principle, and we hear this quite a lot in our sector now about building back better, but we thought that this actually was a really good opportunity to do things better. So, as Harry has just mentioned, some of the tools that they've been using in Nepal, we find in situations that and contexts we're not using those tools perhaps as rigorously as we would like, and so this gives us kind of a new opportunity to start doing that. It also is a good opportunity for reaching those children that haven't been in school before. So whether they're in a conflict area, or whether they have been affected by a humanitarian response, or whether they are just at risk of not completing school because they're a girl, which we see in many cases. So we hope that we've tried to integrate some of that advice in there, that this is an opportunity to get those children back into school who haven't been in school before COVID. And these were some of the key principles that also kind of guided the development of the guide. Many of those up here that you're very familiar with, the best practices of taking a whole school approach, integrating community actors, building on existing structures. There's not any recommendation here to create new structures. It's really building on existing community structures, child protection mechanisms, education authority led coalitions. And just also to flag here about gender, gender and inclusion, we also wanted to make sure that we tried as much as we could, and we had some excellent gender reviewers, that we use this opportunity to be gender transformative as much as we can. So you'll see within the guide there are specific mentions of making sure that the referral mechanisms are there for girls and for boys. They're addressing different inequalities. There are different recommendations for menstrual hygiene, for example, when we're talking about girls, to not forget that. Again, that's also a concept of building back better, and many schools have perhaps not thought about that. So this is again an opportunity to make things more gender transformative in particular. So integration, I've already mentioned that this is kind of really what this guide's about. We really wanted to include good practices from everywhere. It did then mean that the guide became kind of more than 5 pages that we thought it would be, but I think that's fine now. I think it's many more pages than that, but it's really got everything that we wanted to include in it. It also has so the guide is kind of structured in terms of, let me go to the next one. It's structured around actions for before school reopening and as when school has reopened. So it's going to be useful for countries in all different stages, because we know that some schools have gone back, some schools have opened. In some countries there is no sign of schools reopening for quite a long time. Some schools are about to open for the last month of school. So it's divided in sort of before and when schools open. This is an example of a checklist from the health and nutrition and WASH side, and so it's very kind of clearly laid out. The checklists are aimed at practitioners, but they can equally be used with your local partners, with government actors as well. That's just differentiate from another part of the resource guide, which I'll get to, which is tailored to the school management. It's really a tool to help them take the right steps for school reopening. So the school friendly checklist then that I just mentioned is it shows you the steps, it shows you how to engage with the whole school community, and it's also some direct advice for teachers. I would say at this point on, when we talk about school, we also have made clear in the guide that this could be formal or non-formal learning spaces or schools. This could also be applicable to primary, secondary, early childhood centres, child-friendly spaces. It's not, we didn't want it to be just thought of as just the formal school space, and I think that's quite a good feature of the guide, in that it does reflect that a learning space is not always necessarily a structure with four walls, and so it's really promoting that the concept of a kind of more integrated learning space, not necessarily in the formal sense of the word. So this is what the school friendly child safe back to school checklist looks like. Again, it can be taken and used with school management. It's not as long as the other sections, so hopefully it's something that can be quickly used and socialised in the school, and staff can be trained on as school reopens. The guide also has a list of technical annexes, and this was, we hadn't anticipated this at the beginning, but as we worked with different organisations, it was quite clear that there was a need for additional technical material. So these 7 sort of reflected where the demand was coming from. So they're quite comprehensive. This is where you can find a lot of the references for different resources to refer to. I just sort of like to flag number 5, which is the participatory education and continuity planning. And as you know, and from Harry's presentation, this was a tool that was developed as part of the school disaster management toolkit developed by GADRRRES, and so that's an example of where it's embedded. And this one, I think, has been a tool that's been really welcomed actually in the guide, because again, bringing back that concept of building back better, it's something that many schools have not done, and so now's a chance to do it, not just looking at COVID, but looking across and all the all hazards approach. Also, just to flag number 6, of course we've seen that children in refugee camp settlements are at a really high risk, and we've already seen from Cox's Bazar and cases in Syria that this is where there is particular refinement needed for social distancing and the sort of complete lack of services that may be around camps. So that went in as a specific technical annex. I would just show you. This is an example of just what that one looks like. So you'll see that on this MHPSS one, it's there's some good links here for different materials for children, for teachers in different languages. So yeah, there's lots of resources to find there. Okay, so thank you. hand over now to Badr Nahar to talk more about Bangladesh. Yeah, as mentioned, the link to where you'll find the guide can be sent out to you, but thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Hello, everyone. This is Badrun Nahar, and already you informed that I am working with Plan International Bangladesh. So I'm turning off my video so that we can hear clearly each other. So today what I am going to present, it's a case study on school disaster management in multi-hazard context of Bangladesh. So you can see a background photo in the slide, which actually present the condition of the schools here. So that's why Plan International Bangladesh have taken the initiatives to work for safe school and to make the school safe for the students. And like Harry said, we actually follow the 5 steps of implementation. I'm sorry, it's taking time for changing my slides. So we are working, Plan International Bangladesh is working with the Safe School projects in southern and northern part of Bangladesh. And we have reached to more than 200 schools with Safe School initiatives. In this slide, we can see that all the hazards we are facing, including the COVID-19 pandemic, and all are highly creating risk for the children, and there is no doubt on this. I can point out some hazard here, like you can see the landslide, you can see the nor'wester, the river erosion, floods, and in our working area, all the hazard actually we can see. And just about the Rohingya influx, I think all of you are already recognized that what is happening in Cox's Bazar. The forcefully displaced Myanmar nationals influx in 2017, and globally we are familiar with this, and we already know that how children is at risk over there in terms of protection issue. So it's a complex disaster for us, complex man-made disaster, and now the COVID-19 pandemic is also a very new disaster for us, and I think for all of the world. So in the next slide, I want to describe that why Bangladesh is so vulnerable. You can see in the map that the huge river network making actually vulnerable, and that is the prime cause of facing repeated disaster. And as a poor country, also we are facing socio-economic vulnerabilities. So that's why actually children in our country is more at the risk. And in the map, you can also see already I have mentioned that we are working in the northern and southern side. So I have pointed out over there. And if we go actually that how this hazard and the disaster impacts on our children, so you can see that I have put some issues over there, and if I picked out some specific related to the education sector, all are related to the education sector, but mostly the dropout of children from school, loss of their educational materials, the early marriage issue. So these are actually very worse impact on our children. And if we can identify that who are at most risk, we have that also. In our working area, we have pointed out that the young and adolescent girls over there, the children and youth with disabilities, the children living like in remote areas, in our working area, the places are very remote, and sometimes due to disaster, children are migrating with their families. So displaced or migrant children, they are also at the most risk. Now, through the Safe School initiatives, how we are actually reducing the risk. So you can see few photos over there, and these actually presenting like the capacity building of teachers, students, so that they can establish the standing procedure and their own contingency plan. They can make their own school safety plan, and through that safety plan, they can meet their needs for being safe in their school. And also the most effective thing that Plan International Bangladesh along with the other NGOs incorporated, there are issues in government initiated school learning improvement plan. This is like the project initiated school safety plan, and this initiation actually being merged with the SLEEP programming. So that's why the budgetary allocation under the SLEEP implemented as per school safety plan and address the actual need. So this is how we are actually coordinating with the government through our Safe School initiatives. And you all know that for reducing the risk, how much this is need to work in a coordinated approach. And as part of response preparation, you can see in this slide that also we have the initiative of the student safe transportation through the school board. So everything we are doing actually to make our community resilient to disaster. The school disaster management committee, they are doing this, and in the tree you can see that how the school disaster management committee disseminating the message to all the stakes in the catchment area. So this is the mechanism is making people more prepared for any disaster and actually helping, supporting to reduce the risk. And we have active task force, student task force group. We have youth group as part of our plan for education and protection continuity. The youth group are doing mass awareness raising, and there is an awesome thing we are doing. It's like the girls initiated Sanimart. The girls actually initiated this so that they need not to miss classes during their menstrual cycle. So and also as part of continuation of education, classes are also being taken in alternative places. So this is how actually we are contributing in this step 4. And after that, with effective implementation, we have strong advocacy also, because we all know we need to share all of our things, we need to reach out to the greater audience. And as part of this, we are doing all kinds of coordination with the local government, with the local administration. And you can see here some point that how we are working with the consortium, that like National Alliance of Risk Reduction Initiative. So with that consortium, Plan International Bangladesh is working. We are working with Ministry of Education, and from the local level we are reaching to the national level. So this is the part of our greater sharing and reaching out. And also, we are engaging with the other stakeholders like donors, like the community-based organization, and regular sharing is going on through the lessons learned workshop with the local government. And we have a very good thing that the child-led advocacy workshop. From that kind of workshop, actually children are participating in their decision making. Uh, After these 5 steps, what we are doing as part of Safe School Initiative, in this slide actually I have put some data how this pandemic, this COVID-19 stopped our education, and also you informed about the recent
Nahar, sorry, we lost you a little bit. Could you please just repeat this slide, please?
Okay. So in this slide, I have put some data how this pandemic or COVID-19 stopped our education. Actually, the whole country's students is at risk, and you also know about the recent hit of Amphan cyclone. And as our working area for its remoteness, actually here the students are struggling to get back or interact with their education. And in our country, school will be closed till 6 August due to COVID-19 situation. And in the slides, so you can see the percentage, and it's alarming that how COVID-19 and Amphan cyclone actually impacts on our education continuity. You can see the 60% indicated a no regular communication from school about learning continuity. 38% parents indicated that continuous educational support to children they are not receiving, and 42% they have not heard about the remote based education activities, and school going children in the 59% household. So this is really a great impact for our education. And the significant impact I can pick the high dropout rate actually due to this crisis. And also you can see the other specific impact also due to the school closure. And online education, distance learning for our primary and secondary school students, it's a challenge for us. So the continuation of education is highly at risk, in risky position. And next, considering this, we have taken some rapid response initiative, like supporting students or children to continue their education at home at least. Like we are doing the awareness raising, we have distributed storybooks on COVID-19 for the children, so that they can read their own and understand what they will do in this situation. We have initiated video documentation, and we are giving cash support to sponsored child families. It's because so that in this situation, as the livelihood also is at risk, so at least they can buy educational materials and continue their education at least at home, so that they can be interact with the education. And till now we have reached like 6,400 sponsored child through our initiatives as part of our emergency response program. And also the school disaster management committee, the student task force group, the youth group, they are also playing a vital role in awareness raising. And next, I want to share you that also our government initiated online classes as part of education continuation for like grade 1 to grade 10. But there is a challenge because it's not actually accessible to maximum students in our working area, because I already mentioned that it's a very remote places where we are working. So there are some initiative also, and here is the actually point I want to share, that how school disaster management committee, they are supporting the children. They are doing house tuition. It's like they are going to the house, maintaining social distancing, like from 3 or 4 family they are gathering the children, and they are giving them tuitions. They are actually helping them to continue their education. And you can also see in the next slide that how SDMC are awareing the community, because community awareness is now the most priority issue for our government. And also the youth group is distributing masks with their own initiative based on the project learning. So that is how strong school disaster management is helping us to face this kind of disaster. And all the experiences made us actually compelled to accept that how SDMC student task force as part of strong school disaster management, minimizing the risk of COVID-19 and cyclone Amphan. So this is a key lesson learned, but and also a challenges that actually the school disaster management committee is not able to deal with any pandemic like COVID-19 before. So there is a challenge, but still they have done the things I shared earlier, and that is the key lessons learned for us. And in this slide, this is how actually we are moving forward for the pillar 2. Like the school disaster management committee already taken into their account that they actually need to do the multi-hazard assessment more. They need to form more inclusive SDMC. Like from the health sector, we need to add members in our school disaster management committee. So already they are making plan, and they are making plan to update the contingency plan in terms of multi-hazard risk. And here you can see the point that how they're linking with the community and family, how they're thinking the psychosocial support and referral pathway. So this is how we are moving forward for the pillar 2. And as recommendation in this slide, we actually put as a whole. You can see the point. The most prior recommendation is like the continuation. Now it's a big issue for us to continue the education, and for this continuation actually we need to improve our online education. We need to reach out the national from the local level, and as part of strong school disaster management committee, we can actually mobilize, our government can mobilize the school disaster management committee youth group members and can add them to continue the education. And this is what I want to share, like already they have created an example that how they can contribute to community to face any disaster. So this was the case story, and from this story this recommendation actually came that how they can contribute in this situation. And also we are thinking that the continuation of mass awareness raising, it's very important, and it's already going, and through the safe school initiatives we are also complementing on this. And Also as a whole, as part of our national planning, our government planning, here I have put more recommendation like revisit school calendar and take extra classes, and also when we will think the reopening of school, then we need to promote the hygiene promotion, the washing facilities, hand washing facilities, etc. So we need well equipped schools. And also I want to say, you can see all those things, just I want to say the increased engagement of NGOs in planning and implementing, it's also a part of recommendation, so that we can face better in this disaster. So this is what I want to share. Already we are trying to do a lot, but we need to do more. And last point is that our Safe School project actually created a great source to complement government in this complex disaster, and we can work together to strengthen the resilience of the education system and build back better. So this is what I wanted to share. Thank you all, and I would love to address any of your question. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Harry, Sarah, and Nahar, for all your presentations. These were truly rewarding. So please a follow-up. We are currently arranging a follow-up email. Sorry. So just to let you know that we are currently arranging a follow-up email, including a copy of the presentation, the materials, also, and the link to this webinar recording. In this email, we will also provide answers to all the questions and comments we received during the webinar. But now, if you have any more questions after this presentation, I would like to encourage you to reach out to us by writing to GADRRRES at the gadrres@gmail.com email address, and also to continue this conversation on this topic through our community of practice, Safe Children, Safe Schools, which is offered by GADRRRES. And on that note, I would like to warmly thank our presenters, Harry, Sarah, and Nahar today for taking the time to present. And I will also thank all of you who joined this second webinar and contributed to the discussion. And we do apologize again for the technical issues, and we hope that we can keep our discussion alive through the Safe Children, Safe Schools community of practice. And if you are willing to join us next week on Thursday, 2nd July, for our third and last webinar dedicated to disaster risk reduction and resilience education and COVID-19, we will share further information. So stay tuned. Thank you very much. Bye.